You're listening to Dads, Diapers, and Drinks. 3 dads trying to lead their families well in a crazy world. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to Dads, Diapers, and Drinks. I'm your host, Scott, and I've just bricked it already.
Hey, I'm here. And I'm Nathan.
Nathan and Jeff are here. They're both here. And we have our second guest ever on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Dan Adams.
Hello.
Is here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. I'm glad you could fit us into your busy schedule.
Been looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm sorry we had to cancel you last week. As you can hear, I am not quite
100%.
back to 100%, but I feel better than I sound. I'm just like in the aftermath of some bad juju.
Oof.
That hopefully has escaped our house by now. Otherwise, you two are in for it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've escaped it so far. So and
you've been over.
I was over watching the Masters yesterday, which was fantastic. Rory McIlroy put on a show for us.
At least someone went low.
Someone did.
Were you watching, Jeff?
Oh yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was great.
It was good stuff.
And I knew who Scheffler was, Scotty Scheffler. I knew the name before the Masters. I knew he was considered the number one golfer going in and that he'd won a bunch of stuff this year already.
He was ranked world number one before the tournament.
But all those rankings, I don't really give a whole lot of weight to them because it's like, you won 2 tournaments. You're the best in the world. It's like, well, for this month, but next month we'll wait and find out. But
it's all math.
Those numbers change too quickly, in my opinion. Anyway, but he went and won the Masters. And his interview, if you saw at the end, was pretty awesome. He's a very outspoken Christian guy. And basically said, they're like, how do you keep your so young? How do you keep your head so cool when you're playing in the Sunday round of the Masters? And his answer was, win or lose the Masters, my comfort comes from God. It doesn't come from what I shoot on the golf course. I do this out of joy and love for what God gave me and not out of pride or out of, necessity of like the show. I'm here to honor God and he's blessed me with this and that's why I do it. I was like, bro, that's the best answer I've ever heard from a TV show. What in the heck?
Yeah.
Good for him.
That was awesome. So I'm instantly a big Scheffler. I keep saying Scheffler.
Now I feel bad for rooting against him. Because I wanted the tournament to be interesting. And he played, hats off to him. He played so well that it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
As soon as the second place guy doubled a hole, it was like, all right, well, that's it.
Yeah, he tripled. Cameron Smith
Tripled,
dumped it in the water, and then he made a mess.
It was rough.
Anyway.
Golf talk over.
Golf fans, Masters happened. It's
hard for it to not be exciting.
Glued to my screen. I don't know. I don't have much of a life update. We've been just getting over sickness in our house, so been laying low.
I have been not getting over sickness and being healthy.
Woo-hoo.
Great. That's so great, Nathan.
You rub it in.
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, I know you are. I can feel it.
I'm not sure if Scott gave it to us, but both me and Ellen ended up being sick with something this past week too.
Whoa, dude.
It's
wearing a Dayquil and NyQuil.
It's going around. I haven't even... I saw
usually a
you
good call.
for like 2 seconds at the Easter blast on Saturday.
I know. Your kid went that way and mine went that way and I went, bye. And then that was that.
Yeah. I guess that is our only update. Fellowship had their big Easter blast, which is a huge family-oriented, just like Easter-themed fun event.
It's basically...
I don't know how to describe it.
If you know what the Blossom Festival is in Chagrin, it's basically like Blossom, but in our church. It was supposed to be outside, but it was snowing because April.
Yeah, right.
So, and it ended up being inside.
Yeah.
And Ellen helps organize events like that at our church. So she was pulling her hair out all week.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to pull this off. And it was crazy.
Oh,
I was
plans
blown
changing
away.
constantly, I'm sure, with that.
Oh, yeah. It was nuts.
Yeah,
Over 1,000 people signed up to go. 400 of which have never been to our church before.
That's awesome.
So
That's great.
that was rather huge.
And how many years have they been doing this now?
I believe this is the second year. It might be the third. The first
It was
one might have been
probably
really
canceled
small.
2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think we did at the fall of 2020. I'm pretty sure we did something. Maybe we didn't.
Spring?
I don't remember. It's either 1 or 2 years.
We
since it's
moved
been going.
Easter to the fall.
Yeah, spring.
Yeah.
The great fall festival, Easter.
Yes.
You know,
don't usually celebrate the fall at church. But, this is our first time going, and I didn't know what to expect. But I was pretty blown away by how well put together it was, and it was quite an event. So I was impressed.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I was having the big moral conniption about it, as I do about everything.
Yeah,
which is like I know what the budget is for events like this, and I know that we put a whole lot of money. I mean, we catered over 1,000 Chick-fil-A meals for this.
Yum!
Like it was that was like one expense, and then there's like a whole ton of like big giant bounce houses and carnival game stuff that we also brought in. It was a hugely expensive thing, and I'm just thinking, is this really what? Like, I don't know. Is this what we're supposed to do? Is this the thing? I don't know. I was debating this the whole time. And then when they said like 400 people who've never been to our church came, it's like, I think that is probably...
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing. Because my comment was, I had to drag my child kicking and screaming out of the church because she didn't want to leave. And I was like, kid, we got to go home. The baby's falling asleep and mom has to stay here to like work the thing. I need to take you home. And she was just not having it. I was just thinking, how many kids have been kicking and screaming from churches in the past 20 years?
Yeah.
It's not high.
They're dragged kicking and screaming to church.
Yeah. This is the opposite. So it's like whatever expense it is to have young kids have the impression that a church is a place that I actually I want to, I'd go. Because my mindset is now the next time you say to a kid, hey, we're doing an event at the church, they're way more likely to go, oh yeah, I would totally, I'll go there. I remember that. That was cool. I'll go back there. And it won't be the same thing, obviously, but it leaves a big impression on families that this is a place that your kids would actually like to be and you don't have to take them kicking and screaming and drag them across the street to get here. Yeah. So I think that's probably for me, it's a big win.
Absolutely. But those are tough conversations when you're talking about the budget and how you're going to spend it. I'm on the other side of that conversation.
You know exactly how that goes.
We talk about that all the time. Yeah.
Dan's a pastor. I don't know if we said that already.
By the way,
I want to get into that, but before we do, I want to talk about what we're drinking because I'm very excited.
This is very good.
Dan graced us with this wonderful bottle of Wild Turkey 101, which is delightful. I have not had it in a very long time, and I forgot how good it was.
Enjoy.
I am.
Dan is not drinking that. He's drinking a Canada Dry with some,
it's a mocktail.
Cranberry juice. I forgot what even type of juice it is.
It's refreshing though. I don't know. Yeah, some sort of cranberry grape or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Before he gets angry letters, we had to clarify. He is not drinking the bourbon.
Yes. But I am enjoying this mocktail. Yeah.
Yes.
I have got myself our classic old fashioned. Ellen went and bought me some bourbon cherries.
Good job.
So I'd run out of those, and then we got more, and I was like, I must have an old fashioned because bourbon cherries make the drink. So,
dude, I'm satisfied. I swear I could just eat that jar of cherries. They're so good.
Dude, they're the best. I don't know what's so magic about them, but they're just too good.
They're too good. Yeah. Legit.
So I had one other story I was going to share.
Oh, go for it.
Before we dive into the actual talking with Pastor Dan here. For the past couple of weeks, one of our mutual friends, Marty, has been traveling for work. So the Bible study that he and I do together is usually hosted at his house. And instead, I've been hosting it at my house for the past 2 weeks and again tomorrow. And that's been really cool because normally Ellen is kind of hit or miss if she can go because it depends on if my parents can watch our kids on Tuesday nights, which depends on their work schedule, which, as we all know, is rather up in the air most times. So she's kind of hit or miss in getting to go, but she's been able to be part of it for both weeks. And with Marty gone, I've had to do planning because normally Marty kind of runs the whole show and I just show up and help talk with
much
people,
like
basically.
The podcast here.
Wing it.
Yes. I am brought in for assistance. So similar function. Actually, that's hilarious. But so the past couple of weeks, me and Ellen have been basically planning a lot of it with our other friend Margot, and it's been really cool. It's been really good. It made me miss being more involved in youth group and like back when Marty and Margot ran the youth group. I was like really involved in planning and making things happen, and I really missed that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love doing this. I forgot how much I really enjoyed being involved in like ministry stuff. This is just so cool. So that's been a really awesome kind of blessing to our life. And one of the things that came up is we were having such a good conversation that one of the kids I say kids, like 22, 26, barely younger than me, said, I really wish we were recording this because I would love to be able to share this with like my, other friend or my brother or something. And Ellen said, oh, Jeff, you should just start recording these. You could release them with your podcast or something like that. the whole room goes, "You're what?" Oops. I was like, "Oh yeah, I do a podcast. This is called Diapers and Drinks."
It is.
We haven't got the picture. It's behind me. It's really there.
Oh, yeah. I finally hung mine up back there.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
So we started talking about it, and one of the guys, one of our friends, his name's Mario. He was kind of feeling challenged that we're talking about entering into maturity in the book of Hebrews, and how in the Jewish times that looked like all these things that they then go to through the rest of the book of Hebrews is like how to, in a mature way, defend your positions as believing in Christ as the Savior. So he said we should spend some time talking about how we do that today. And he felt really challenged by it and was just like, dude, I don't even know my Bible well enough to even begin having the conversation. And I don't know what to do about it. I said, here's a fun one. My good friend Nate on the podcast, he told me that what he did is because he was also a mechanic. Mario's a mechanic. What he does is he audiobooks the Bible while he's working.
Yep.
And that he audiobooked a ton of the Bible already this year by just doing that while working.
That's great.
And Mario told me recently, he's like, dude, I already finished 4 books of the Bible of the Old Testament. I'm going to start the New Testament. He's like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was like, good. I'm so happy that worked for you.
Man.
I was like, thank you. Because like, it was just something that Nate said. And I was like, I bet this would be good for you. And he's loving it. So
dude,
that was really cool. Just like awesome podcast doing some good.
That's so exciting because that was something that like was really like kind of revolutionary for me because our church was gifted, like the whole congregation was gifted the access to the Dwell app, which is like, it's a more well-produced version of the Bible. And there's different versions and each version has like a different, what are they called? Voice actor.
Yeah.
Voice actor reads the Bible in different people. So you can kind of pick and it's different accents and
different
stuff.
Accents, yeah.
And like there's like background music, so it's not just like dead silence of someone reading. There's like a nice like piano or guitar. You can kind of there's a lot of options.
I find it all very distracting, honestly.
Really? It makes me very engaged.
I can't focus on I don't focus on what's being said. I focus on the production of it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when they play piano behind a prayer. All I'm thinking about is what the pianist is playing. Oh, you went for that chord there. That's interesting. I like how you played that. Oh, he's praying, isn't he? Oh, that's the wrong chord, honey. Sorry.
But yeah, it was really good. And it's still really good. I'm like 2/3 of the way through the Old Testament at this point. So yeah.
Nice.
Very cool.
A lot of that is great to just listen to while you're doing something to get through it. Because I don't know. A lot of Old Testament, if I'm sitting there trying to read it, it's like,
what are you saying? Hold on. Did you say something of the Bible? You didn't say boring.
Pastor Dan, I did. I said,
go read some Deuteronomy for me. Tell me how riveting that is.
At times.
No, I'll tell you, I love this conversation because I'm not alone. I'm a big proponent of audiobooks in general.
Yeah.
And I'm a big reader. I typically read 150 to 200 books a year.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I'm a reader.
I aspire to be you. That's
but if you were to walk into my office, you'd be hit in the face with like piles of like it's just shelves of books. That's there's no decor. It's just books. But I'll tell you, every day I'm audiobooking the Bible because I want to listen. I want to get more content in and to hear it's in somebody else's voice.
Yeah.
And also you can speed it up.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And also really interesting. 2 things. One, my wife Katie and I just finished a Bible study called. Oh, freaking A. I've totally forgot it.
Sorry.
Is it? It's not Renew.
It's not what it's called, man.
I'm guessing not.
I was saying freaking A.
It's that.
I'm going to look that up for my family. Ooh.
Good A. I cannot remember. It's called... It's not Growth. What is it? I cannot think of it. Rooted. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Rooted. So, we just finished it, and part of the whole program is memorizing scripture, and like... I've gotten really out of that whole
same
practice. And it's amazing. Like everyone was like, hey, memorize the weekly Bible verse. And it was amazing how many like instances I saw that it actually applied to like what was going on. And then secondly, with listening to the audiobook, it's very easy for things to just not work out when you're working on mechanical things. Like the bolt just doesn't go in the hole and you've tried 100 times. And you're like, it's very easy for me to get angry. And the amount of peace that I have when I'm listening is also astonishing. Like I'm just like, oh, everything's fine. It's all great.
I'll just keep trying.
I'll just keep trying. No, but like legitimately, like it's like I don't even have that spirit of angst that I would have.
Yeah,
it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I've noticed that at work too. If it's particularly stressful and I'm listening to worship music or something, I'd handle it differently. So I don't know. some
I just listen to metal music all the time and just yell.
Yeah, some days I do that as well.
That's just the move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a question. I forgot what it was.
I was gonna say.
Well, I can lead into a general dad question for our guest.
Go for it.
Because this was my experience that I just had tonight. So we've had a kind of we decided that we're going to draw a line starting today with our daughter, who's 2.5. Mm-hmm. The way we've done dinners up until now is we make food for mom and dad, and then we put a little bit of it on Kelly's plate, and then we usually make her something else that she will eat. So either some applesauce with some salami or ham, or a hot dog, or some simple chicken that's been like salted, whatever, and cut up. Mm-hmm. And she'll eat that stuff. And we've been doing that for a while, of like, she pretty much eats her things and she'll not touch the dinner that we made. So we decided tonight that we're going to start doing all right, Kelly, you have to try the dinner that we make. We're not just going to let you skip out on all the meals that we make and just eat hot dogs your whole life. You need to at least try a bite of the dinner that we make. And we fought with her for 2 hours. Ooh. She sat in the chair screaming, refusing to take a bite of a meatball. So we made spaghetti and meatballs, like some, oh my gosh, some tragedy.
How dare you?
She would not take a bite of meatball for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
We're looking up, the British show, Super Nanny?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're looking up clips of Super Nanny as she's, Thomas, no, you have to sit in the chair and you have to take a bite. Mommy says you have to. So we're watching that for motivation as Kelly's just screaming that she refuses to eat. And I was debating in my head, is this too early? Is this just like not worth doing yet? Or is this the type of thing that when they're 5, you just go, all right, we're going to do this now and you'll learn? Mm-hmm. Or do you need to implement this at 2 in order to make it work at 5? In your experience, Dan, what did you end up doing with like just getting your kids to eat meals?
Oh boy. So wouldn't you like it just to be that easy, where you just say, here's what's for dinner, and you're grateful and you eat it, and it's never the case.
Yeah, you got to build that. It's not there to start.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story in reverse. So for many years, I was a youth pastor. My role is different now at the church. I oversee youth ministry and young adults and a variety of other things. But so I worked for years and years with, makes it sound like I'm super old, but for a good long time with parents who would come pulling their hair out because their 17-year-old, their 18-year-old, their 15-year-old, their 19-year-old was just unruly, disobedient, didn't have any desire to listen to mom or dad. Because at age 16, they were deciding to put their foot down. And to expect obedience and to want to instill some sort of self-discipline. And the only thing that I can say to them at that point is, it's too late. I mean, I don't say it. I don't say that. And I don't say it like that.
Yeah.
But if you have had the most formative years of teaching them, you get your own way if you throw a temper tantrum, it's really hard to curb that when now they're processing it from a logical standpoint. They can throw an argument back at you. Yeah. The fight is a lot bigger than a little temper tantrum that's a screaming fit. So it's probably not about the meatball at some point, right? With Kelly.
It's not at all.
Right there.
She likes meatballs too. She will eat it.
Yeah.
It's officially one of the merches. I'm making it right now.
Yeah. So it's not about the meatball in that moment. And as a parent, I've had this conversation. So we have 3 daughters. One is 16, one is just about 14, and one just turned 12. So we're 3 girls, a little bit older than Kelly, a little further down the road. And we have one, I'm not going to tell you which one, who is much more stubborn is the right word than the other 2. The other 2 are compliant. Even if they don't want to, they'll eventually get around. But this other one, I have to tell her on a regular basis. Now, daughter, it is not about whatever the thing she's pitching a fit about. I remind her it's not about the meatball right now. It's about obedience here, and you learning that obedience is important. And so my encouragement to you is, the temper tantrums right now at 2.5 are nothing compared to when they're licensed and can drive a car and can do all kinds of big and bad things, right? For them to build that trust with, when mom and dad are asking me to do something, it really is in my best interest. So that's easier said than done. I get that. At our house, it has been hours of screaming and sitting sullenly at the table. We have at our house, and so I'm glad to hear you're doing that. At our house, we have what we call no thank you helpings. When we do dinners at home as a family as often as we can. And as the kids get older, that gets more challenging, but we do that more often than we don't. And the dinner table is family style, and we pass the plate or whatever it is. And if you don't want any, you still get, no, thank you. I don't want that. I don't want asparagus tonight. Okay. You still get a no, thank you helping, whether it's just, one strip of asparagus or whatever. And you're not leaving the table until you eat that. You don't have to like it, but you have to at least experience it. And
yeah. So my bigger question inside of that is at what point is it detrimental? At what point is it beneficial? So with a 2.5-year-old, my one thought I had is maybe she just doesn't quite comprehend what's going on well enough. Like when we say, Kelly, you can't leave until you take a bite of this. She was just so hysterical. At first it was like, she just says, no, I don't want dinner. You're like, no, you have to have dinner. But by 45 minutes into this, she was just like screaming hysterically.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't know if this is beneficial anymore. I feel like I'm just causing like a problem.
Emotional scarring is happening. Right.
Yeah. Like at what point is this like, all right, this isn't worth it anymore. Let's just put her down, give her a freaking hot dog like she always has, and we'll just try again tomorrow. Yeah. Like, is it the type of thing where when you give in like that, am I going to build a habit of, oh yeah, now she'll just fight me for 45 minutes and then get a hot dog? Or do I really need to stick that out for 2 hours if it takes every night for the next month until this is over?
So I don't know. I don't know Kelly, but
it depends. It depends on the kid.
Yeah, I would say so. You're in the best position to know is if this fight's worth it or not. And the fight again isn't about the meatball. It's about helping her learn how to react and respond appropriately to authority. She's going to have authorities in her life, all of her life. You go to work, you can't just pitch a fit when you don't like what the boss tells you or whatever. So, but also she's not going to learn the lesson 2 hours in of screaming and being red in the face and a raging headache because emotional scarring is setting in at that point. Yeah, but that same meatball can be served for breakfast tomorrow. Right? Because that lesson still needs to be learned.
I got them in the fridge, man. Yeah, right. That's my lunch tomorrow. I'll spare one.
The devious laugh. I love it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that's hard, though. I have had this conversation. Kelly's too young for this conversation, but I've had this conversation with my daughters, and I tell them, you have to know, what battle you're fighting. But I've said, in this contest of battles, because I'm your father, I can't afford to lose this. Not because I need to win, but because I want my child to learn a principle here, that there are things, my child, all three of my kids profess Christ as their Savior, which is a wonderful blessing to me. And if they're going to be obedient to Christ, they believe the scripture that says children obey your parents. They don't always like that, but they believe that's true.
Right.
And later in life, even when they're not children in my household, the scriptures are still true that they have to honor their father and their mother. And they have to learn to navigate that. Well, it's our duties as fathers to help them learn that. And sometimes those are easy lessons and sometimes those are hard lessons. Yeah, that's tough. Terrible Twos is called that for a reason, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
That sounds pretty terrible.
It was the first time where I felt like Alan kind of said, all right, Dad, you have to be the authority here. And I was like, okay. All right. This kind of sucks. Here we go. That was one of the first moments where I really felt like, all right, I need to do the discipline in here and I got to stick with it and not bend. And that's why I'm really questioning myself of like, I don't know. I didn't bend, and I'm like, I don't even know. Maybe I should have. I don't know.
After 2 hours, maybe.
Can I tell you another story? Let me tell you another story.
Go ahead.
The same daughter who struggles with obedience. She's very bullheaded, very strong-willed. And I tell her, I try to build her up and encourage her all the time. I tell her, people are going to follow you. You have a strength of will, and people will follow you. Choose wisely where you go because they're going to follow you. Use that power for good, not for evil.
Yeah.
So we talk about obedience regularly. At about age 5, we had been working on obedience with her, and we call it instant obedience. If it's delayed obedience, it's not obedience. It's you getting your will and you're bargaining, and then you're trying to rationalize with me, and you're trying to see. So this is the same child who, we practice spanking in our house, and when she was told she couldn't do something, she would ask, "Well, how many spankings am I going to get?" Like she was bargaining with, "Is it worth it?" Right? Yeah. I mean, so very strong
bargaining pain chips over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is it worth 5 spankings, or is it only worth 2 spankings?
I feel like I did
which
that.
Which parent is doing the spanking?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I know I did that. I would ask, I would say, is it a mom spank or a dad spank? I asked about that.
Oh, which was better? Which would you rather get? I'm curious.
It was mom spanks weren't as bad.
Oh, it was
Dad didn't hold back.
It was the opposite in my house. Dad would spank with the paddle. He had the wooden paddle that he would spank. It was never abusive. He never beat us, but he instilled discipline that way. Mom would grab anything that she could reach, and she would aim generally for your rear end, but she would grab the goodie brush, the one that has the vents in it so you can use the hair dryer.
Oh, man.
And you can just hear the thing whistling through the air as she smacks you in the small of the back. Yeah. Let me finish my story about this one day. So we had been working, and we came to a victory in obedience. I was walking the girls to the corner store. It was a gas station. It's a Speedway. It's 2 blocks from our house, but you have to cross the main street, and then you have to cross a bunch of residential and commercial driveways as we're going in, and multiple streetlights. It's only a block and a half. It's just very busy right there. And Grace wasn't with us. My wife wasn't with us. We were taking the kids. They call it the slushy station because for 89 cents, I can get any size slushy, and I am the hero on a hot summer day. And so we're going to the slushy station, and out of nowhere, I can only assume that this driver was drunk. But this one daughter was probably about 15 feet ahead of me, outside of my reach, and this driver just careens across from the opposite way, 3 lanes of traffic, and is heading in a split second is going to hit my daughter if she doesn't stop right now. And I think she was on a scooter. I can't remember. It's been long enough. But I just yelled out her name, stop. And I am so grateful that we had practiced instant obedience because had she not stopped, there was nothing I could do. I could not Superman to her. I could not grab her out of the way. I couldn't get between her and the car. And if she had not stopped, she would have been a speed bump.
My gosh.
So there is hope. Keep working on it. It's a lesson that's learned. And boy, I'm grateful that as stubborn as she is, that we had been working on that for years.
Well, that's a factor that I like when it comes to obedience that I think about, that there's this aspect exactly of like what you were talking about, where it's not even a matter of, should I continue this fight to some degree? And it's like, no, you have to win. And it's not because you need to be the winner, because you need to, assert your dominance over your child.
Not about ego.
You're not winning for you. Yeah.
No, it's for the good of them entirely.
Correct.
And it's like you can't lose, because losing is so much more terrible than you could possibly imagine, in the sense that it could be hazardous to the point that they could literally die just because of even safety situations like those kinds.
Or in terms of lifelong lessons that they need to have to be able to hold down a job someday.
Right. Exactly.
Right. We talked about that before, how we're raising future adults, and they're kids now, so obviously we cater the lessons to what they're able to understand, but they will be adults someday, and we're trying to make good adults.
But you haven't lost if you save the meatball for the next day. There are times when you say this lesson is best learned tomorrow.
Yeah, you won this battle.
That's a nice nugget of wisdom. Well, meatball of wisdom for me.
Yeah, right.
That the fight isn't won and lost today.
No,
I've got her whole lifetime to work on these. It doesn't mean you don't do it, but it means that if you determine it's not probably working right now, that's okay. We'll do it. We'll try again tomorrow.
Yep. Teachable moments. That's what you're looking for, those teachable moments.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Dan, kind of related to what Jeff was talking about. So Davis is now, he's 15 months old.
Getting big.
He understands what the word no means, and it doesn't even matter what he's doing. If we just say no, he's instant screaming, instantly upset. So I'm finally at the point in my parenting career, if you could call it that, where I'm like getting really angry at the kid. Like, not just is for his defiance, not for just him being a frustrating baby at times. Like I can tell he's actively like trying to defy what we're saying.
Well, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but even yesterday, I saw him literally laugh in your face. Like, you literally told him no.
I was wearing,
and
awesome.
he went like
You
that kind of
jerk.
laugh too, and you're like, what? I couldn't imagine being in that moment.
Well, he started grabbing Kelsey's hair, and he's pulling. I actually wore this shirt yesterday. He's pulling on my buttons, and I'm like, stop pulling on my buttons. I grabbed his hand, and now he's throwing his food. And every time we say no, don't throw your food, he looks at us, grabs his food, and he like slowly he's about to throw it again, and then we're like, all right, you're done, and we pull him out of his high chair and we put him on the ground. Then he starts wailing, So it's, we're getting to the point where he's aware of what he's doing and he's starting to defy us. So I guess I'm wondering, at what stage in your kids' lives were you the most angry with them? Or did they drive you the most crazy?
Yesterday? No. I think kids need to come with a warning label. You have no idea how much time you're going to spend consciously allowing them to scream about something, a problem or a mess or a fit that they themselves have created, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And just, do I save them from this or not?
Let them wallow in it.
Yeah. So for our kids, and I can only speak to our kids, and I can only we have not unlocked the boy code. We only have girls at our house, so I can't speak to the Davis he kind. But for us, there was,
boy or girl, they're probably pretty similar at 15 months.
At 15 months, yeah.
So there was 18 months for each of my girls, pretty much. There were some things that started to happen. There was a huge growth spurt developmentally for them where they started putting things together differently and responding different. Up until 18 months, they almost only needed mom. And I was just a guy who lived in the house.
Yeah.
They didn't need me for anything. I loved them. I think they liked me. They were aware of me mostly. At 18 months, At 18 months, they started interacting with me, and we love that. But discipline is small things at that point, and they don't have words to articulate what, and they don't understand all the time the rationale behind it. So this is not a good number that you're going to want to hear because it's a ways off. But 17 years old. No, I'm kidding. At 3 years old, they're rationalizing a little bit more. It's not the same. And there's bargaining that goes on. And by the time they're getting to kindergarten, which is 5, 6 years old, they're preparing to learn discipline that's expected out in society.
Sure.
Yeah. So that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And so the consistency in those teachable moments to look for them, but also to remember we've been called as fathers specifically not to exasperate our children. And so I have to constantly keep in check, what are my expectations for my kids? Now, I'm not suggesting that your expectations are unrealistic. That has been my experience, though, too many times, where I expect A+ behavior for a 17-year-old for my 6-year-old child, right? And that's not realistic. And so my child at this age, what is realistic age-appropriate behavior for a 5-year-old or for a 3-year-old? I have to do the research to know what that is. They didn't come with a manual, but there are good books that talk about what are, and I could give you a couple of resources if you're curious that talk about each stage, at each age, and what kind of challenges they have, and what kind of what's their mental development and psychological development and all of that, which is really an interesting study. I'm no expert in that, but it was helpful for me because I have to keep my expectations in check. Otherwise, everybody's having a bad time because I'm demanding a certain level of behavior from them, and I'm disappointed. And they're frustrated because I'm expecting them to reach beyond what they're able to achieve.
Right. Yeah, that's something I think I've been really good at, actually keeping my reactions in check and keeping my emotional what I want to say or how I want to outburst, like keeping that in check. Because I honestly don't know. I'm pretty ignorant about what to expect. So I'm like, I would rather underreact than overreact. So I'd like suppress everything. Well,
I don't have anything revolutionary to say here, but when it has been for our children, what we have done, we use both the carrot and the stick. We want to give them all of the good things, but if you're disobedient, those things can disappear. I mean, our kids are not neglected, but all of the things that you enjoy right now, if you can't have appropriate behavior, you're going to lose all of those things until you can learn that. And, that helps. But at Davis's age, it's a little bit challenging to take away your blocks. I'll go chew on something else.
Everything is a toy.
It's all the same to me.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been. Never mind.
No, that's something that I've always thought about, and it's really, I feel like it's super difficult to have the appropriate perspective of what is appropriate behavior, because it's so easy. You see some kids that are just so naturally well behaved that you're just like, oh, so you exist, and you're like, oh, so that's the new standard for every kid. But it's like, that's so unreasonable. You can't expect every kid to suddenly be like, oh, I am just I'm a savant of language at 6. It's just not that's not realistic.
At the Easter Blast, I had that.
Oh, really?
We were in the neon or the black lit egg hunt room, and Davis was having a blast. And then the room was full of balloons, and these, I don't know how old these kids were, 5, 6, 7. They start popping the balloons, and that freaks Davis out. It freaks me out. I don't like that. It's loud. It's startling. So I was like angry at these kids, and Davis is starting to scream his head off. So I'm like, all right, we're going to take Davis out of here. But I don't know. Everything in me wanted to scream, like, why are you doing this, kid? Why are you popping balloons? Why do you think this is a good thing?
And where are the parents?
Yeah, where are your parents?
Grace and I say that all the time. Where are the parents? Because not everyone who is a mother and a father is actually actively parenting.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
But there's your chalk it up to like, it's a 6-year-old boy.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't know what to expect. Yeah, I was like, kids are probably just having fun. I don't know. Maybe Davis will be that same punk kid someday, but I will probably be in there with him and pull him out. I don't know. I don't know.
At least you can hope.
I hope so. I hope Davis is a good kid. I'm going to make him a good kid, dang it.
I'm going to do my best.
So we can move. What?
Go ahead.
I was going to move on from parenting talk and move into a different topic.
Go for it.
All right. Marriage.
I highly recommend it.
Marriage.
Good.
Big fan. Big fan.
So, yeah, all three of us are married. Jeff and I have kids, and it's been interesting navigating a married relationship once a kid is part of the equation.
Yeah.
So, I guess, and I know you do a lot of premarital counseling, or do you do premarital counseling or marital counseling?
Yes.
You do.
Yes,
you do all. Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of
Terrific.
Yep.
Yeah. You did our premarital counseling. I don't know why you even asked
I
the
did.
question.
I was there. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Do we need to revisit that?
You said. I remember some things you said.
Well, for all the listeners and viewers, I think I've married 2 of you here.
Yeah. You
Right?
have.
Yeah. Been involved in the process for 2 of the 3.
It's correct. Yeah. That was an embarrassing moment.
Well, good thing it's recorded.
We do have remedial courses for those who can't remember.
Oh boy!
For those who can't remember pre-marriage counseling, we have marriage counseling.
Because your wife does remember.
Don't worry. She does. Locked in there.
So, how often in counseling sessions are kids part of the issue in a marriage,
Or at least called out as the issue? Like, oh, it's the kids.
Difference in parenting styles, or
In their marriage, that hasn't been something I've encountered significantly. Now, I'm not a counselor outside of the church context.
Sure, yeah.
And if somebody was having significant marital conflict issues, I would be referring them out to a clinically trained counselor.
Gotcha.
So I, not that I avoid that, but I'm not particularly skilled at that. And within the context of my church, I'm primarily working with younger couples who are on-ramping toward marriage. So pre-marriage counseling and some of the education and training that comes with getting ready for marriage, that's where I spend more of the time.
Okay.
And the areas of conflict that I encounter more regard finances or intimacy issues that crop up. Outside of that, there are all kinds of parenting issues that come up, but not as a conflict within the marriage, but as we don't know what to do with our kid. Can you help us? And that's a little bit different. At least they're wanting to team up as opposed to the kid being the wedge in the relationship.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah. Although anybody who's listening who's considering marriage, I highly recommend pre-marriage counseling. Not everybody does. You have to spend a ridiculous number of hours to get your driver's license. You have to do like, what is it, 8 hours of in-cars and 50 hours of driving and then 24 hours of classroom. But you can just go get a license and get married today with no preparation.
Pretty easy.
For the most important relationship on earth. Let's prep for this a little bit. And
It's a big deal.
I had to have 1,900 hours of training to become an A&P mechanic, so I think you should have a fair bit to be married for the rest of your life.
Right. If you want to be happy and it be satisfying and not riddled with all kinds of conflict.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And it's interesting, though, specifically on that topic, is that there is a pretty wide diversity of what that means. Because I know some couples that have gone through marriage, like premarital counseling, and they're like, yeah, we did like 3 sessions, and it was like an hour or 2 total, and that was it. And like mine was extensive. It was like 16 separate sessions.
Some people have more issues.
Oh. No, but it was like the program that they had set up.
That's not the standard, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Glad I ousted myself on a recording. Scott, you and I can just
Nathan, you guys got to come back next week too. Actually, you should come back the next 8 weeks.
I think we all need counseling after this.
That's interesting. When I sit down with a couple for the very first time, I will say to them, I anticipate probably 5 to 7 counseling sessions, and different people do it differently. That's how I do it. And they want to know, well, how many? And it depends. We're going to be talking about some things. We might find some hot topics that we need to explore a little bit more for the health of your relationship that you dig down in. And you wouldn't want to, just skate on over those. You want to take some time to find some health in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in your counseling experience, what have been the things that you've seen that have made marriages struggle primarily, and what are the big takeaways basically when you see struggling marriages? I know you've said financing, you've said intimacy issues,
right?
But what are the things that we can do now to make sure that we don't fall into these things?
Yeah. Well, you guys, all three of you have a lot of very positive things going for you. I mean, you have a faith community that's surrounding you. You're involved in a community group with your church, right? Having that built-in encouragement and accountability to have other people who are doing life with you, that's really helpful. To have healthy people who are building into you, speaking into your lives, because otherwise, if you're isolated, and I don't mean to have somebody to just go gripe to about your spouse, but people who will encourage you along the way, that's so incredibly helpful. Managing expectations is a big deal when I'm talking to couples who are preparing for marriage and or are experiencing struggles within marriage, to talk about what some of those expectations are and to be able to put voice to them. And then to be able to come to some sort of agreement, hopefully, is the idea. So, boy, I'll tell you, intimacy is an issue that people just assume because we're 19 and in love, we will always be on fire for each other. Well, yeah, probably you'll want that, but that's not always the case, because enter in a slobbery, pukey, diapered kid, and all of a sudden the romance level could just go. It's a little bit different, right?
For sure. Yeah.
The dynamics change. There's another person involved, and then there are multiple people involved. And for some couples, and I'm talking about expectations and intimacy specifically here, but some couples, boy, they're hoping to have kids. And they expect to have kids, and they have trouble getting pregnant. And now all of a sudden you go from making love to making a baby, and those are two very different acts. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay, it's the same thing, but it's very different. So talking about expectations, who's going to pay the bills?
Yeah.
Or who takes out the garbage, or who fixes the car, or like all of those things. Some of those roles are assumed when you're in love and ready to get married. And if you're not talking about those kind of things, it's easy to start resenting somebody by even as early as by year 2 or 3, when the honeymoon is kind of worn off, and now the grind of life sets in, and all of a sudden the chores have to get done. Like that, if we know what those expectations are, we've agreed upon those, and when they're not working, revisit them. All of a sudden, and that comes back to communication, right? We're talking about the things that are on our minds, or the things that are frustrating us. So intimacy issues is one, I'd say, Jeff. I'd also say having realistic expectations and being able to talk about them. Finance is another thing too. I'm going to be careful when I share stories and examples, but because I want to protect those who have shared with me. But one of my best friends growing up got married shortly before me. I was not yet in ministry full time by any means. Sometimes you think about in the couple, one's a saver and one's a spender. They didn't have the saver in their family. They had 2 super spenders. And by year 3 of their marriage, in addition to all their college debt and everything else they had, they found themselves bankrupt. They had all of the things, and they watched all the other families have these things, but they forgot. My parents, it took them a lifetime to accumulate and acquire all these things, and they wanted them by year 2 or 3 of marriage. And so, finances and having discipline in that, and having realistic expectations there, and to talk about that, and to set some real goals, and to be able to have priorities and live within a budget. Those are all skills that you can't assume. You have to learn and practice and be disciplined with them.
I know in my premarriage counseling, we did like a stress test thing of like what things are, or I forget what exactly it was called, But basically, what things do you have unrealistic expectations for, and what things are you most stressed about? And my most stressed thing was finance at the time, because I was young and I didn't really have the most secure job. And I remember being just unbelievably stressed about money. And I was super stressed about that. And it was definitely the biggest burden on me and my family, which was just the two of us at the time, for the first probably 3 years of our marriage, was just constantly being like, oh my gosh, have I screwed up? Have I made the wrong decisions? Am I totally bankrupting myself? Am I leading not only me, but now my wife down a dumb financial path? Have I totally tanked us? It was just like constant stress in the back of my head for like a couple of years. And thankfully now we're well past that. And I do well enough financially now that this isn't a stress. But at the time, there was a couple of years where I would like when I first started my job that I have now, I was so stressed out. I had complete panic attacks. And like, I didn't show up to work a couple days the first quarter that I worked at my job because I was so stressed out that I just I couldn't do it.
Wow.
And like our friend Marty, who's one of my favorite people, I talk about a lot. He came over to my house because Ellen called him because she didn't know what to do. Because she was just like, I don't know what to do about this. And he showed up with a pizza. And I'll never forget this. It was just the dumbest thing. He had the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, which stunk.
Yes, it did.
And he had a box of pizza. And he's like, Jeff, there's something odd about this pizza. And I'm not going to tell you until you figure it out. And he just left it like that.
That's so great.
And I'm like, after like the movie's like over, and I was like, dang it, Marty, what is odd about this pizza? I can't tell. And he's like, this is a Papa John's pizza, and that is a Domino's garlic sauce.
What in the world?
That was his thing.
And there was no point to that?
Nope, that was the whole thing. And
all right.
So it was just to say that was like what I needed. That was after at the end of 2 years of marriage that this happened, where I kind of hit this breaking point. And it was this dumb little moment with our good friend Marty, where I had someone in my life that could come and help me out when my wife was like unsure of what to do, because I was just so down in the dumps and so stressed about our financial situation that there was someone who's just there to like literally, I still remember, because it's just this dumb little thing to get me kind of back on my feet and get rolling.
Good for Marty.
But it was a huge turning point for me personally, was that story.
And I don't think everybody, well, not everybody would agree with this either, but not everybody understands guys like guys do. Guys need guys for that kind of thing. You know, Ellen's wrestling with, how do I help my husband in this area? Because she doesn't wrestle with that sort of attachment. Our identity as men is so attached to what we do. When you meet somebody, what do you ask them? First thing, hey, what do you do? I mean, because that's your identity. And when you're wrestling or struggling or have insecurity there, it's more than just financial insecurity. It's an identity crisis at that point. It eats at your inner person.
I had such imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Because I didn't have a degree and I got hired to a job at a software development company, I was like, my insecurity levels, which I've never really been an insecure person, but that got to me in such a way. I was just so lost. I was like, I just couldn't deal with it in such a way that I've never experienced before. I was just at home and I was like, I can't get myself to go to work. I feel like I'm a fraud. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was like an unbelievable experience. But yeah, it took for me a guy who's, I mean, he's about your age, Dan. So someone who was like the next stage of life ahead of me to come and like, just be there with me and like make it make sense to me. Cause that stress was unbelievably crippling for me, financial.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. I think we've actually talked about it, or it may have been on one of our podcasts, but I feel like you have specific insight into this, Dan, is at what point does my ministry become disrespectful to my family? Or like at what point does, like our faith is, at least for me personally and my understanding, it's like the most important thing fundamentally, a relationship with Christ. But at the same time, we're simultaneously called to lead our families well. So it's like, at what point can there be too much overlap of importance when it comes to ministry as a whole, or just time spent at church? Like, oh, I'm spending all this time, like for Scott and I, it's like, oh, you're spending time on tech or with the band or something, and you're not actually, I mean, it may be admirable, but like, at what point is too much?
Yeah.
To some extent.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you were just saying, as guys, we pour our identity into what we do. So I guess as a pastor, I feel like that could be an easier trap to fall into in a way. Because your job is ministry.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you balance that, your career and your family?
Yeah. So balance is a tricky word. For me personally, I think I'm doing pretty well in that area. For the most part, you have to ask my family if that's true. But I think I'm winning mostly, and I'm not saying I'm crushing it there. I think I'm on the positive. You know, I'm playing 500 ball at least there.
It's pretty good.
But it's a constant struggle every day to prioritize. And so, again, that word prioritize is so important because God has spoken about some of the priorities, right? And God, my relationship with Christ, my faith is most important to me. And my God needs to come first. He deserves that. He's primary. He's number one. And I think we share that value in this room, on this podcast. And then comes family. And it didn't take very long until Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 through 24. Sorry, it's going to get preachy here for a second. But there is, long before there was even in-laws, I mean, it's Adam and Eve. He had just got done creating Adam and Eve. And this is before the fall. Everything is good. And he says, but you will... I'm going to misquote it, but you're going to leave and cleave is the passage. You're going to cling. You're going to leave your mother and father and cling to your husband and to your wife. And so there's this idea of families of origin and families of creation. And every time a couple gets married, there's a family of creation. A brand new family has been created, and there's a priority there. Now, my priority isn't to my mom and my dad. My priority is to my wife and any future kids. And now my attention span gets even more challenged. I have 3 kids, right? So now I don't just have the priority of a wife, but I have the priority of 3 kids who, and I was reminded early on in ministry by somebody who was mentoring me. He said, nobody else can husband your wife. Lots of people can pastor this church.
Yeah.
I was so grateful for that advice.
That's good stuff.
And so I'm the only one who's in professional ministry here, so I understand, but I think the principle is still true, that my wife doesn't need somebody to pay the mortgage or fix the car. She needs a husband, and I need to be present regularly. She can hire all those other things out. She needs that companion. I committed to that. I should stick with that. So I don't know what that looks like in a number of hours, but she'll be good to tell me. We have good communication, and she'll let me know when that's out of bounds. And we talk about that. How many nights out a week is appropriate? Yeah. And if this week is out of control, then what does next week look like? We talk about that. My kids don't get a say in the matter so much. I mean, they're kids. They just know they need their dad. Yeah. And nobody else can parent my kids. My kids need, you guys know that. Girls need their dads. Boys need their dads. I have to be present. And I'm in the wrong church ministry if, whether volunteer or vocational, either one, if I say to the person who I'm responsible to, you know what, things are out of balance a little bit, I need to take a step back. And I mean, I'm not bailing, but I need to take a step back here because my family needs me here for this right now, or I need to reprioritize. And if they're not concerned about the health of me and my family, they're just using me. Yeah. I can, in a moment's conversation, if they're just using me and what they can get out of me, that's not what ministry's about. Ministry's about serving, right? Absolutely. And so if I say, hey, I need to reallocate some of my time here, and they're not concerned for me, boy, it's probably time to start having a different conversation about about what's my involvement here. Fortunately, I've been in places of ministry where that's hasn't been the case. Everybody's been very supportive and but I don't know I think that answers your question kind of. Yeah.
I think it absolutely does.
But God first, family second. Yeah.
Good stuff. Dang.
It's been tough in the early going of Davis's life, where I feel like our marriage, well, I've said this before, like our marriage was put on pause because we're just trying to figure things out. And it's been, especially recently, like when people start getting sick, and like this past week, we've all been sick, and Kelsey got particularly sick. So it's been like, she just like shuts down by, like, as soon as Davis goes to bed, she's gone pretty much. So I've been like having every evening to myself, and I've found myself like kind of enjoying it. Like, I don't know. It's,
do you feel guilty about that?
Yeah, I do.
You don't have to.
I don't know.
No.
I said this before. I've said this before on the podcast too.
Yeah.
I was like, I know Kelsey doesn't listen, so
You're safe. Secret safe.
I hope she doesn't listen now.
No, so if you'd been paying attention in premarriage counseling session 2, you would have heard nothing.
Were you there?
Wait, were you there?
But one of the best things that you can, this is going to sound really conceited, but one of the best things that you can bring to your marriage is a healthy you. I mean, the best gift that you're the best gift that Kelsey could ever get. I mean,
Heck yeah,
right,
dude.
right. No, but a healthy you is really important. Not a selfish you, but a healthy you, right?
Yeah.
Self-care isn't selfish. And so having your own space, being able to unwind a little bit or enjoy the things that you enjoy, that's not wrong.
Yeah.
If it's out of if it's out of balance to the point where your family never sees you and you're not around for the important things, time to reevaluate. But
Sure.
But you have my permission to not feel guilty about having me space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Because I found, at least in our marriage is almost 3 years old now. We've almost been married 3 years. I enjoy, like, it doesn't bother me for us to be spending more time apart as much as it bothers her. Like, I'm very, very content to be doing my own thing.
I think that's a dude thing. I'm not going to lie.
It might just be a dude thing. Like, I've always got hobbies, and I'm always content to, like, sweet, she's going to go take a bath. I'm going to go do my thing. Like, I find myself getting happy when she's like, I'm going to do my own thing. Like, sweet. So, and not that I don't love spending time with her, because I do, but I don't need as much of it as it seems like she does.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I do feel a little guilty about that, but you're telling me I don't have to feel guilty.
As long as you're not neglecting your wife.
I don't think I am.
Yeah.
So
She would be able to tell you.
She'll tell me.
Yeah.
to speak to that, I feel like it's very easy for me to have a similar situation. Well, to earlier to what you were talking about, but like at one point, I mean, have you listened to most of the podcasts or all of them?
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so you've listened to our miscarriage podcast. You know at least Katie's and my story to some extent. Yeah. So, going through that whole experience and like, hey, we were on the track, we're going to have a kid and all that, and now we're still back in the stage of, we're trying to have a child still. I think it's very easy, at least it's very easy for me to feel like we're very focused on this goal. And so in the same way of like, oh, we've had a kid now, it's very easy to put the marriage on pause. I've had that very similar thing, and Katie and I have discussed this, but it's like, it's very easy to have like, okay, we're really focused on this thing. And so it's like, we can kind of put, date night on the back burner because, we've got all these other things to do, but also she's got medical appointments. It's just like the new focus is that thing. And I just feel like it's so difficult sometimes to just like be like, oh, wait, this right here, you and I, is actually super important as well. And not just be like, we're focused on this goal, in a very unidirectional manner.
Yeah.
So I just like, I don't know. It's difficult. It's like, I don't even know what to tell myself in those moments sometimes. Like it's like you can very easily know that, but at the same time, the focus can be so intensely directional that it's like, I don't even know how to redirect this because it is good. Like our desire, like I know that it's very easy even the Bible commands it. It's like, hey, go and make more disciples and make nations and spread over the earth. It's like, yeah, we're like, maybe we're
trying.
It's like, we're trying to do that, And it's like even the really good things that are like, you're supposed to want this. It's like, I know that like, it's like, maybe it's not God's plan, but from right now, my perspective, it's like all the signs point to yes. So it's like something is not up here. And it's very easy to like, feel like this is the only thing that matters. I guess that's the best way to put it. And it's like, I know that's unreasonable, but like, how far can that even go, really? I guess that's a complex question. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm not going to answer that directly, other than to say, boy, there are seasons and chapters of life that come to an end.
Yeah.
Eventually. Yeah. We're not writing that entirely. God knows the beginning from the end, and He's sovereign in each in the story of our lives and in each and every chapter. Each chapter has several supporting characters that come and go sometimes. The plot, we get some say in it, but he also has a good idea of what the plot of the chapter of our life is going to say ultimately. Chapters come to an end eventually, and I don't want to lose my wife in the midst of this chapter.
Yeah.
So whatever the circumstances are in this chapter, and you're describing some challenging circumstances, right? Or some hopes and desires that are unfulfilled currently, and you only have so much control over that, right? And, but this chapter will come to an end one way or another eventually. And don't lose your wife in the midst of that, right? Be her companion in the middle of that. Boy, when you're talking about trying to find date nights and you're busy with all the other things, and I'm not trying to say it's simple, but add 3 other people into the mix. And I'm like, man, I've got 3 other schedules that I have to balance. There's some days I feel like I need an air traffic controller just to tell me where I need to go next and who I need to Uber to the next sporting event or whatever. And like, man.
You should have family Uber driver.
Yeah. And my biggest challenge, if there's a place where I'm just dropping the ball, is date night with my wife. Like, how do I not lose the romance in the midst of just focusing on the kids too? So, the kids aren't the fulfillment of that,
I mean, I may be speaking entirely for myself, but I feel like it's very easy, as a guy to be like, oh, we're married. And it's like, well, we're on the same page. Like, we're good now,
married for life.
We're focused on these things over here. It's like, we're great. Like, what's the problem? And it's like it's so easy to just be like, oh, it's like we've won, we've succeeded.
Yeah,
and it's so
we've
easy
arrived.
Yes.
You kind of neglect the relationship for that reason.
Yeah, there might be some maintenance along the way.
It's almost like over security is like the way that I can very feel. Like, I'm so secure in my relationship with my wife. It's like, I'm not reading into what she's doing when she wants to just hang out and read her book on the couch. I'm not like, oh, she hates me now. Well, I guess I'll just go, watch some TV by myself or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, look, she's great. But like, that's very much my feelings. It's very easy to think that she feels that same way.
I'm really grateful that for my wife, if we're not in alignment, she'll let me know, and she does it in a gentle, kind way. But she's not shy about it either.
Yeah,
and I can be really dim-witted sometimes to not recognize that a little more maintenance is needed here in the relationship, and she'll let me know that in a gentle way, which is helpful. That's why I was, saying Kelsey will let you know if hey, do you mind if I have an evening where I'm working on my stuff down in the sound room or whatever? And if she hesitates there, boy, that's the time to have a conversation, right? Otherwise, no, go do your thing.
Yeah, well, I even said that last week where I was content for a while to just get my yes and not really pay super close attention to how the yes was delivered or not really ask enough questions. So that's something I'm still working on because as I said numerous times, I'm very content to do my own thing. And I asked for permission to do a lot of things, and Kelsey's so awesome that she says yes a lot. So it's tough for me to just like take advantage of her chillness. It's I guess it's a pitfall that I fall into. So yeah, I'm managing that too. My question about marriage, or I guess date nights in general, is how do you make them worthwhile? Like, I don't know. We haven't done date nights. It's been a while. Luckily, we're thankful for our friendship with Nathan and Katie, because Katie literally said, "I'm coming over to babysit your kid on Thursday night, and you guys are going on a date."
We're forcibly kicking you out.
Fantastic.
Get out.
You are kicking us out of our house, and we're going somewhere. So
I'll give you my address later. You guys are
no.
My kids are old enough. That's a cool thing. My kids are old enough. We can leave them at home now, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Things have come full circle though.
Sure.
Kelsey used to be our primary watcher of our kids when our kids were
I could
younger.
see your kids watching our kids.
Yeah. Maybe one more, not so much, but the other two, yeah, probably. No, I'm teasing. No, but that's what you have to do, is be intentional about it.
Yeah, but even the date nights we've been on, it's like we sit down at the table at the restaurant we're at. We're looking at each other like, "Hi, how are you? Like, how you been?" It's like we haven't had a date like that in a long time, and it feels like we're getting to know each other again, like all over again, a lot of the time. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not crazy.
Let me just normalize that for you. Yeah. Because for Kelsey, she's like, oh, I can have adult conversation. And you know,
she does miss talking to regular people sometimes.
And when you're falling in love and you're pursuing somebody, there's an intensity. When you're trying to get to the ring, you're trying to get married and you're trying to get across that marriage finish line, there's a lot of hot pursuit. And after that, it's easy to take your foot off the accelerator there. And then when you're trying to get back into the group, like, oh, we need to probably pursue each other a little bit more. But you're in a different stage of life by then.
Yeah.
Like the energy level is totally different. And what you look for, like on a Friday night, is can we just eat Doritos without anybody asking us for something?
Yeah.
Can we just sit and watch a movie together and not have anybody interrupt us? Or there have been a couple of date nights. Not many, but a couple of date nights where the kids were with somebody else and we went back to our own house for date night and mostly slept. We did some other things maybe too, but mostly just chilled in our own house. Like it's not romantic or there's nothing spicy about that except we can't do that otherwise. And we just want to be together. Yeah. I think it's pretty normal that some of the sparkle is gone, but the depth of intimacy doesn't disappear. I mean, there's a comfortability that comes with that.
All right, well, that's good to hear because I feel like most of our relationship has been that way. We don't go on dates, like we don't do fun things. We're both just very, very much couch potatoes. So like we just enjoy doing that or watching a show we like or doing a puzzle or something like that. So like date night doesn't necessarily mean we'd go do something.
The date night that I absolutely hate, is we'll say, hey, you want to watch a movie tonight? And we'll go, our TV room's in the basement, we'll go in the basement, and then we'll spend the entire movie length of time looking for something that we both want to watch together. Oh, that is the worst game. And so everybody goes to bed crying.
Our solution to this is the hard trade-off.
What's that?
Our solution is we have a hard trade-off where we just go, all right, it's my pick. Cool. Next one's yours. And it's it is what it is. You pick movies, and the goal is to pick a movie you'll both like. Yeah. So then at the end you go like, so what'd you think? And you go, nah. She's like, okay. I'll try to think about it next time. But like when we pick movies, we just alternate. Someone's picking and we're watching. So because we did that because we would scroll. We got to the point where we're just scrolling Netflix, scrolling Amazon Prime, going anything.
Yeah.
Anything? No. Bueller? No.
That's a good compromise there.
Yeah. So then we just said, I was like, look, I'm picking a movie. We're gonna watch it. Next movie, yours. Let's just do that. We've been doing that for like 2 years now. Just whatever it is. And the number of movies I've watched that I was like, Ellen, pause. This is the rest of the plot of this movie. Am I right? Yes. Can I leave? Yes. Okay.
All right. Okay, thanks.
Nice.
Oh, that's funny.
But I've also seen a bunch of movies I never would have watched. Like a bunch of movies that it's just funny. Like when you, with your spouse, the number of movies that like in the back of your head you don't really remember watching, and then you go, "Oh yeah, I love this movie as a kid. I totally forgot about this." Like she'll pick a movie. She's like, "Oh, I love this one." It's like, "Oh, I think I've seen this. Oh, I have seen this. This is a good movie. I totally forgot about this. Never would have watched it if you hadn't picked it." Or movies where she goes, "Oh, my dad loved this movie when I was a kid. It's a good one." And I go, "I've never seen it. It's some '90s movie that is really good." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I totally missed this in my childhood. That's great." So I've discovered a lot of stuff I like out of this too, which is nice because you just wouldn't come to it naturally any other way. Sure. So it is a recommendation.
There are some good rom-coms out there that I would never seek out to watch myself, but you find out you like them. So.
But a cheesy movie night with your wife, it's a good context for that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we don't watch a lot of movies. We watch shows, but I want to watch more movies.
So we wanted a big show tear where we were just watching nothing but shows, and then we basically stopped and said, let's watch movies. Let's be done with this. Let's watch movies. So the first thing we did is we watched the entire MCU start to finish.
Oh, nice. That's a pretty good.
Because they have it on. It was when Disney Plus first came out.
Yeah.
We were like, wait. What
if we Marvel just did Cinematic Universe? Got it.
Boom. Yes.
Got it. I jumped off that train a long time ago.
I know. So I had 2, and I was like, there's about 10 movies in here I haven't seen. And sure, let's start. So we watched it chronological order from start to finish because they have it in chronological order.
That's the way to do it.
Which is, it was actually quite good. It made me enjoy those movies way more. So that was a fun one. Because Ellen had only seen like half of them, and I was like, yeah, there's some good ones in here. This will be fun. That's how it started, was with those.
Yeah. Yeah, we just watched The Adam Project. Nathan and I did.
Is that good?
It was, dude. It's such a shame that I feel relief when a movie is made just about a traditional family and the importance of a father-son relationship in today's society. Like, I'm so glad that's still out there because I feel like the narrative, the cultural narrative, is so opposite of that in general. So it was a really good movie, honestly. And Ryan Reynolds was great. It was funny. The kid was great. It was I recommend it.
That'll make my list.
It's like it's basically almost like, I don't know. It's like a guy's emotional drama masquerading as an action film.
I shed a tear. Action film. I shed a few tears, actually.
There's a couple scenes that are specifically like from a father-son relationship, like got me right in the chest. Like, let's try to get it together. Scott and I are watching it together like, man, that pizza was good. I'm going to get another beer.
Feelings. Don't look over here.
Allow me to feel my feelings. No, but it's very good. It was good stuff, but
cool.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we should wrap this one up.
I think so. This has been great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Dan.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. I feel like we got a little counseling session out of it. So
now that you've been here, though,
try marriage counseling.
We're gonna have you back for like a legitimate like topic that we decided.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
I'd love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Anytime. Unless we have someone else scheduled. So
got it.
Anyway, if you haven't already, follow us on the social media. I say this every stinking time.
I know.
Don't use it.
Don't use them.
Just follow us so people know who we are.
Just do it so the page can grow and people can find us. I don't know.
Yes.
I was actually talking to someone this week about social media marketing. I was like, I might consult you. It's like, okay. Because I was like, we just don't do it. None of us use social media. We all hate Facebook.
I browse Twitter. Well, I browse social media. I don't post anything.
Yes.
That's my problem.
Right.
Total consumer, not a producer whatsoever.
So,
yeah.
We need help getting it going. He's like, all right, just talk to me.
It takes
like,
work.
All right, maybe I will.
I would love if any of you listening are into video editing and you want to go through our archive of stuff and clip funny moments or when we made a good point about something, feel free.
Let us
start posting that crap. I'll give you the login information. You can just go to town because I don't want to do it. It takes way too much time.
It does. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we got for this week. Next week, we're interviewing our father, Jeff and my father.
Who art in heaven. No.
Our father who art in heaven.
Your father. Yes.
Who art in heaven.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Thankfully.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, golly.
All right, that's all we got for this week. Talk at you next week. Bye.
Cheers.
That was